Salem. Welcome back to the Aimmee Kodachian and the Expert Show, where we bring some of the top experts in the world to help you transform your business and personal life. And sometimes we bring inspirational stories just to let you see your life in a whole different perspective. I am your host, Aimmee Kodachian, not Kardashian.
And I am your co-host, Stephanie Thompson. I'm a classically trained singer-songwriter. Well, in this episode, we've been talking with attorney Kevin Holtman, and he's been teaching us about, in the first segment, he taught us about what to do before an accident, when you have an accident. And in this segment, we're going to be recapping that a little bit and then talking about what to do during an accident.
Which we hope no one will have an accident.
Yes, never want to do that.
That's not what we want to. But let's recap a little bit, Stephanie.
Yeah,
what did we learn in the first segment here?
Well, we learned that we need to educate ourselves about our policy.
Absolutely. And ask our insurance guy.
Ask our insurance agent before an accident happens.
Exactly. You don't want to get caught without having the right coverage and be left with a significant injury and no compensation.
And sometimes you pay $10 more, but then you have peace of mind. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's worth it in the long run, because there's a lot of people out here driving that are impaired, that are driving fast, and a serious accident can occur, and you can land in the hospital. And if you have those big hospital bills and it completely ruins your life as far as interruption to work, you may not be able to go back to the same job, you need to be compensated for that because you didn't do anything wrong. And if there's not enough insurance to cover that, it can really leave you in a tough spot.
Sure. So doing all this without the lawyer, what's the difference going through the lawyer or going through just the insurance?
You're going to get, most of the time you're going to get a better outcome for one, because doing it yourself, there isn't as much threat of going to litigation. And if the insurance company doesn't feel like they're going to have to pay money to defend it through litigation, they're going to lowball you. The biggest reason really isn't so much that, though. It's about knowing the process and not having to deal with that, because it can be very frustrating. I mean, I do this day in and day out, and I still get frustrated with the insurance companies and the adjusters from time to time. So, you're already in an emotional state. You've been in an accident. You're worried about that, how you're going to get back to work, the injury, you're going to take care of your family because you're physically unable to. So having to then deal with the insurance company on top of that just adds a lot more stress.
Adds a lot.
Yeah. Exactly. And two, just to make sure the medical treatment is done in the way that it should be done. A lot of people don't understand how the medical billing works. They don't understand how the liens work, or subrogation, which is if you run this through your health insurance, you have an obligation to pay what they paid back to them. And you have to have the medical bills paid for. So if you don't understand that process and how to go through it, it can be a little overwhelming. So the best way to have an attorney is to handle that.
Okay. So if sometimes they say, well, it was my fault. Why should I call a lawyer? Nothing, it's not going to help me. It was my fault. If somebody had it their fault, they should still
if it's their fault, not necessarily. Okay. Because
so if it's your fault, don't worry about it.
And the reason that I say that is because with your insurance that you purchase, they're under an obligation to defend you. Okay, so you go through your insurance if it's your fault, because they're going to hire the attorney to take care of that if it gets challenged, if they're unable to settle it. So you don't have to pursue a claim at that point, because your insurance will cover that. So, if it's your fault, call your insurance, let them know what happened, explain all of that, cooperate with them in their investigation, and they will either pay the policy out that you've purchased, which is whatever amount you purchased for that policy. They'll pay that out to the other side. If it's a dispute, then they will hire the attorney to defend you.
So how would you know? I mean, obviously the police comes in and he determined right there and then it's your fault?
Not necessarily.
And how would you know?
Not necessarily.
How would you know?
Well, I mean, clearly if you rear end somebody, it's probably going to be your fault. I mean, realistically, I mean, that's how it mostly occurs that way. But there's always disputes. I mean, certainly ask an attorney. If you think that there's a dispute into how the facts happen.
If you feel like it's not your fault.
Talk to an attorney.
Somebody ran the red. I heard that even if somebody ran the red light, and you're turning this way, there is no proof they ran the red light. That could be a problem.
Right, it can be.
Right?
It can be. I mean, right now I actually have a case in which my client entered on a yellow and somebody was turning and struck them in the rear, and the insurance company is trying to say that it wasn't the other guy's fault. And so, I'm fighting with them on that because, legally my client had the ability to run through the yellow light, to go through the yellow because he couldn't safely stop. And
because somebody else could hit them from the back.
Sure, exactly. So, so you're going to have those situations come up. So in that situation, you want to talk to an attorney.
So when you're confused and you're not sure if it's your fault or not, then, but if you know for sure it's your fault, then
talk to your insurance company.
Talk to your insurance.
Exactly.
Okay. Because that could be a lot of people thinking about it.
Sure.
Is it my fault? It's not my fault. Then
and certainly one of the things that I do, I mean, if somebody calls me with a question, I don't charge for those consultations. So give me a call, ask me the questions, and I'll talk to you about it. I mean, I've had that often.
We have nice guests here.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's
how we bring, right?
Yep, exactly. I mean, I try to give that personal touch to my clients, and because I find that if the population, the public is more educated, it makes my job easier.
Yeah.
So I like to educate people on that and make sure that they understand what's going on.
To be protected.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, so I was wondering, what about witnesses? If someone witnesses the accident, what would you say, pro witness, con witness?
I think certainly if somebody is willing to be a witness for it certainly helps, because when you have two people who are involved, one person who thinks they caused it or didn't cause it and thinks that they did, they've got a vested interest in that. So sometimes their testimony may not be as relied upon as an uninterested witness. Okay. So certainly, I would hope that people would be willing to be witnesses. A lot of them don't want to be drug into a litigation.
Sure.
They don't want to have to go be deposed. They don't want exactly. And so a lot of times we don't get witnesses, unfortunately.
Okay.
But if you have somebody who saw it, who can support your position, get their card, get their name, get their information, so at least we can talk to them and see if they're willing to be a witness for this and say, yes, this is what happened. Most of the time when the liability isn't an issue, we don't need them because the insurance company will admit if it's a pretty clear case where somebody rear-ended, we usually don't need them because the insurance company will accept liability.
Sure.
And so then it really just is a matter about the damages as far as the medical bills and all of that.
Okay. Well, it just makes your life easier having somebody to take care of all that.
Absolutely.
If you lose your job, not lose your job, if you can go back to work. And then something else somebody told me one time, and it did happen to me. Somebody re-ended me a little bit, but I didn't see anything wrong with the car, and I'm on the freeway. I'm not going to stop.
Right.
I don't care. The car is fine. Leave me alone. I'm fine. I'm not going to deal with the insurance or anything. But then I noticed my back, the next day, I felt my back was like, ooh, my back is hurting. It didn't hurt the same day.
Yep. So. And that happens a lot, and that's something we can talk about with what to do when you're involved in an accident. I kind of use this analogy as if you haven't worked out for a while and you go to the gym and you're working out and you're feeling great during that workout and you're everything's running really good. That whole night you're feeling excellent. The next day you can't even walk.
That's right.
Same thing as
a lot.
Exactly. Same thing that happens in an accident.
Okay.
Your body tightens up.
So what we're going to do, we're going to talk about, we have 2 more segments to talk. It's not enough time to talk about this. This is awesome information. Even though some people might know all this, but just to have a reminder about things and be aware of what's going on. Because, one thing could happen, it could ruin your time, your life, everything, really.
Absolutely.
So when we come back, what we're going to be talking about?
We can talk about what to do when you're involved in an accident, on the scene, and what to do when you get involved in an accident.
Okay, that sounds really good. And if you're watching on social media, this segment, please go to akexperts.com to watch all of our show and everything recorded so far. So stay tuned. We'll see you soon.